Good evening, sir. So can we start?
Yes, let's go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Professor Nachiketa Mittal. I welcome all of you to this panel discussion come workshop on how to make research grant proposal. It's my pleasure to host three eminent professors and academic leaders, Professor Shanthakumar, Vice Chancellor, Gujarat National University, Gandhinagar, Professor Sairam Bhat, Professor of Law, National Law School, Bangalore, Professor Sandeepa Bhat, Professor of Law, NUJS, Kolkata. Thank you so much, all professors, for giving consent and joining for this panel discussion. And as we had a preliminary discussion that this is one of the important areas where a lot of law teachers in all law schools grapple with, especially, I think, after a few years of teaching when the pressure starts mounting towards performing well and doing a lot of research activities. They join research centers. So this event will pave a way. I'll take a minute to brief about the program and about the platform. So the program is being hosted by KETAS Education Foundation, which is a Section 8 company formed in 2020. And it's being organized in collaboration with GNLU. Thank you, Professor Shanthakumar, for that. Also, the Zoom platform that we are using today has been offered by Professor Shanthakumar. Thank you so much, sir. That's why they could host it. Professor Shanthakumar has been supporting this pro bono initiative for long, as even in April 2020, we'll be completing now in this April 2025, 5 years. So Professor Shanthakumar has been there from the very launch of the pro bono programs. And even then, I remember Professor Shanthakumar called me and said that, Nachiketa, do you need any help? I said, nahi sir, kuch nahi chahiye. And then sir said, kaise kar rahe ho? How are you hosting the programs? So, and then Professor Shanthakumar donated 1 full year WebEx subscription to host the classes pro bono. So that's been the support all the time. And even earlier with GNLU, we could host Justice Michael Kirby's program. So thank you so much. With Professor Sairam Bhat, we could also host Earth Conference, annual conference that is being organized, and also another program with regard to different UGC regulations. So been hosting you, Professor Sandeepa Bhat, I'm hosting you for the first time. So pleasure, hosting you as well today. So friends, as part of this program,
you forgot that you hosted me physically earlier, multiple times.
Yes, multiple times I have co-hosted you in NLU Odisha. So likewise for Sairam Bhat. So friends, there have been 2 major initiatives as part of this foundation. One is Virtual Law School. Some of you may know, we started teaching thousands of students pro bono. Apart from that, one of the initiatives, Professor Shanthakumar may recall, I started on a very small scale, although, College Teachers Council of India, where I thought of also connecting with the professors of colleges and universities. So that's another program under which the idea is not just to host conferences or seminars, but in the times to come, try to help college teachers of all disciplines, bring them together, especially since all law schools work on interdisciplinary model. So from liberal arts, from maybe technology, of course, law, and there could be good convergence for dialogue, also upskilling. So my team will reach out to you a little later, all participants in that regard, and we can then have another round of discussion so that that network can be built. Today, for this program, I'm happy to announce we received over 120 participation, and so much so around over 50 universities or colleges, which all participants, colleagues, friends are representing, as well as representation of participants from Georgetown University, US, Strathmore University, Kenya, University of Dhaka, and few others. Lot of NLU, central universities, state universities, private universities, so and so forth. So now, without taking much time with this background, the format is very simple, that we identified some set of questions along with professors on the panel today. So I, as a moderator, I'll route these questions to professors one by one. Apart from that, after the question and answer Q&A with the professors, it will be open for open house so that any participant who may have query, thought, anything to share, they can, as well as all three professors will also present their concluding remarks. I'm sure it will be a very interesting, enriching exercise for all of us to take home in our law schools and also please share across with your colleagues. So, may I start with Prof. Shanthakumar first? Sir, one of the very basic questions that I thought to set the tone for the panel could be, which I want to ask and request you to answer is, what are research grants primarily? Who is eligible to apply for such grants? And are there any specific experiences, qualifications that enhance any applicants' chances for getting through the research grant proposals? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Nachiketa, am I audible?
Yes, sir, perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you. I understand how much time we have, Professor Nachiket, for this?
So we have. I would suggest 5 to 7 minutes per question would be good.
Okay,
Yes.
Right. So thank you so much. So I see that no, though you said one question, I could see there are three questions. One is what are research grants? The number two is who is eligible to apply for these grants? And most important is, are there any specific qualifications or experiences that enhance an applicant's chances of getting these grants? Okay, so I think first question is very, very simple. I know that most of us know if the participants are from the academic field. So we need support for research. Generally, when we say research grants, we mean the financial assistance offered by institutions, any organization, government, or even nowadays private entities are also offering us support to research projects. For example, recently also we backed one big grant from a sporting company, an online gaming company, because they wanted to. We sent a proposal for financial assistance to them, telling them that we intend to study the regulation of online gaming in India. So they were quite happy with the proposal, and then they have supported very generously. We did not expect that, but then they supported us very generous. So the likewise research grant, when we say research grants, we mean the financial assistance generally offered by organizations to fund resources such as we need research staff, because all of us are employed full time with some institution or the other. So we can't be traveling during our working days and all these things to collect data, all those things. So we need research staff. We need certain special books for doing literature review or access to some materials. We need some kind of equipments, maybe because some funding agencies even fund for the purchase of laptops and like whatnot, data cards and all those things. Similarly, the agencies also fund resources for our travel requirements, because many times you need to travel up and down multiple times to collect the data, and all the other incidental research related expenses, especially when you are traveling out, you need to stay out, you need to eat out all 3 times a day. So all those expenses also you can be included in the budget, which they support. So this generally, like if we talk, that is what is the general idea of what is a research grant. But then if you want to talk very technically, we will say that the research grant is the grant of research projects, institutions like ICSSR, where they classify research projects as major projects, minor projects. There are some special call for projects, and they also sponsor certain research programs like this. So this is something. Then we have different kinds of research fellowships, doctoral fellowship, postdoctoral fellowship, senior research fellowship, junior research fellowship, national fellowship. Likewise, you come across many such names. Similarly, you also get grants for doing a capacity building program. You also get grants for conducting workshops. You get grants for national conferences, international conferences. You get grants for publishing the research work. You also get a travel grant, both nationally as well as international travel grant. And sometimes nowadays it becomes very, very common to have collaborative research grants, especially from countries like Japan, Africa, and especially the European Union. Erasmus Plus is something which all of us are very familiar with. I think most of our institutions must be having one or two research proposals supported by the Erasmus Mundus program. So that is something which is very, very common. We get whenever we talk of international grants, we get a lot of support from the Erasmus European Union grant. We recently concluded one such a research proposal identifying the competencies for a legal professional, which was supported by Erasmus and which had 3 partner institutions in the Europe, like one in Spain, one in France, and one in another country. And similarly, we had 3 partners in India. We all joined together and conducted this research. So there are multiple grant proposals are available. I think you need to keep doing your research on first identifying who is funding. Therefore, when you identify that, then you get to know what is the scope of support, financial support that will be available. Accordingly, you will have to fine tune your. Of course, during the course of this program, Professor Sairam Bhat is there, Professor Sandeepa Bhat is there. All of the they're very experienced in submitting research proposals and getting a successful acceptance of those research proposals by funding agencies, getting a lot of funds. In fact, I know Professor Sairam since the day when he was executing a World Bank funded project for his institution called CEERA, the Center for Environmental Education Research Advocacy. So that was a capacity building program funded by the World Bank. So you will have a lot of funding coming from various agencies. So those financial assistance, we generally call it as research grant. But as I mentioned, it can be used for various purposes for carrying out the research. Now, coming to the second part of the question, who are eligible to apply for research grant? Generally, I feel that it's mostly the professors. By professors, I mean any faculty members, working in colleges and universities and research institutions like Indian Law Institute, or there are various other research institutions like research centers of ICSSR and other places. So it's generally the academicians and researchers are the ones who regularly keep writing proposals. Sometime back, I had the experience of reviewing some of the proposals submitted to ICSSR. When I reached to the office of the ICSSR, I could find the amount of huge volumes of proposals that they keep receiving. And then they were also, I must commend the efforts of ICSSR in supporting such research proposals by very generous grants. So they have volumes of proposals, and then they segregate it subject-wise, and then they call the relevant experts, and then they scrutinize. So I see that, mostly it's the academicians, because when I went for a peer review, like I could see amongst almost 100% of the applications were from faculty members working full-time for colleges and universities. Similarly, faculty members associated with research institutions. But then there are also research proposals which are invited from those pursuing advanced degrees, like postgraduate students or PhD students. especially if their research aligns with the grant's focus, then they accept proposals even from doctoral students. Then even if you are not associated with any institution, there are some funding available for independent researchers as well. To support scholars who are not affiliated with any institution, but they demonstrate expertise and credible research plan in such cases. Like, for example, I know that DST was supporting sometime. I'm not sure whether they are continuing to do it. A few years back, they were supporting. I'm not exactly remembering the name of this scholarship, but it was intended to support women who are out of career because of their family reasons like marriage or childbirth or something like that. And then if, during that career break, DST did not want to lose them, their potential and their connect with the subject. Therefore, the DST was giving exclusive scholarship for women who are not working full time. So for the first qualification is that you should not be working somewhere. So that is something unique, where where you, because generally we feel that research grants are available only for professors, but then DST proved otherwise. They said that no, it's not only they have set up a huge budget for supporting women who have taken a career break, especially due to marriage and due to childbirth or due to maternity reasons. So encouraging them to continue their research and continue to help them support publishing and all those things. So that is a very, very unique kind of a thing where I could see a lot of people got those research grants, which is a very generous grant, including a monthly fee for the investigator, so that the women gets financial support for conducting the research while being at home, especially taking care of the family and other reasons. So that is what I said, that you don't need to be an academic all the time. There are schemes which support such independent researchers, and especially most of the international institutions do not care whether you are like, there are a lot of foundations. Like today morning also, I was just applying for Daimler-Benz Foundation's proposal. So there was no requirement that you should be from a university. They did not ask me like where I'm working, what I'm working, what is my designation, nothing. They wanted a research proposal. So there are a lot of such people. There are such grants, granting institutions which are there to support. Then there are many, if you are a part of a research group, if you are a part of a think tank, or you can also form a separate group, which can be a multidisciplinary group to work on a large scale project. Like recently, last week, we got a big proposal funded, a big funding for a proposal submitted by some of my colleagues, in which they submitted in association with a few faculty members working with IIT and certain faculty members working with the Pandit Deen Dayal Energy University. So it's always good now that independent teams working on multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary areas. Now that is something which is now the latest trend. Instead of you applying for a research grant individually, I think it's better that you should do that. So I think this is something I think I have taken more time. I can keep on talking about it, but I think I will come back to it later.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. That was a good start for us, all of us to know. And we can see more participants have joined as well. So I move over to now Professor Sandeepa Bhat. Sir, I have a few set of questions bundled together for you. What types of grants are available generally for legal research? How do they differ in their focus and requirement? And are there research grants which may also favor or maybe tending to sort of include interdisciplinary kind of research as well. One example, Professor Shanthakumar just mentioned as well, that partnering with IITs and probably IIMs, maybe I have not heard, but possibly there could be some examples in other NLUs. So what are your thoughts?
Good evening to all. And first of all, let me thank Nachiketa for bringing all three of us together in the same platform. Even though actually we shared the platform earlier, it used to be independently with each other. All three of us did not come together in any platform, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Right, Sandeepa. You're right.
Yeah.
We should thank Nachiketa for
Yes.
bringing all of us together at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. Now, in terms of your questions, which I should say multiple things together, let me maybe start with the last part of your the question. That is more in terms of interdisciplinary projects, actually. To my understanding, nowadays the interdisciplinary projects have become a kind of a norm instead of actually saying it's an exception. So most of the agencies do require interdisciplinary approach in the project. For example, even the joint research project, Professor Shanthakumar, when he was basically discussing about the joint research project, IITs, IIMs, and all, actually, he was basically pointing out. So that also indicate that the interdisciplinary approach is something which has been focused upon. Now, maybe if I have to give a few examples, law and economics. So you have actually the interdisciplinary the projects. Law and technology, that's something which is very growing. And since I'm also working in the field of space law, I do understand that actually, and not just space law, even I work also in the field of medical law. So medical technology and the interface with the law is also something which I look into. And there is a lot of opportunities available even in the law and technology interface. Another classic example which I can give out of my own experience has been the law and public policy. Law and public policy. We have got a center in NUJS, the Center for Regulatory Studies, Governance and Public Policy, which has been an initial 5 crores grant from the government. So 2015 to 2019, they granted 5 crores. And now also they are continuing. So every year there is actually a lot of grant which we are getting. And I am fortunate to have the person to write the proposal for that. So therefore, law and public policy is also actually another interdisciplinary area wherein you can find a lot of the opportunities. And one more thing which I can highlight from our own experience in NUJS is law and forensic science. Forensic science interplay is also actually something which is increasing nowadays. And we are having a lot of partners from the forensic science department also. Right? There are multiple projects which are going on that present in collaboration with the forensic science departments. So to my understanding, now it is more of interdisciplinary rather than considering law as a single discipline and getting the research, the grant. Now, I think the first part of the question, to a certain extent, Professor Shanthakumar has already addressed in terms of what are the funding opportunities available. Let me just actually go a little in depth into that, actually. I would like to divide them into one, international organizations, maybe second, the public bodies who would be funding, and then third, maybe the private bodies who may be funding different kind of the projects. In terms of international organizations, I have found that there are certain agencies who would fund you with respect to the public international law aspects. And there are certain agencies who fund you about private law. I'm not telling about private international law. I'm telling about private law developments in the international the level. Right? Because in the international level, the treaties are basically called as PPP. They are basically with respect to public law, private law, and penal law. So you are having actually, say, different agencies funding primarily in terms of public law as well as the private law. Public law, of course, United Nations has got many agencies actually which are funding different kind of the projects, maybe in terms of the human rights, maybe in terms of child rights, women's rights. So many. I mean, even in space law, we have UN COPUS, UN Committee on Peaceful Uses of the Outer Space, do have actually its own funding for different the projects. And I can also tell you about the World Bank and even the WTO. WTO has got actually its regional bodies which finance actually the projects with respect to the trade aspects. So that's also a good the opportunity for those who intend to work in the field of the trade law. With respect to the private laws, I have the fortune of being the representative of UNIDROIT for India, UNIDROIT. It's pronounced as UNIDROIT. UNIDROIT is a body which is there for unification of the private laws in different countries. And it has already worked in terms of contract, financing, especially mobile equipment financing, so many areas where there are actually the conflict of laws in different jurisdiction. And they're having a lot of actually the project funding as well. So whoever is interested can go through the UNIDROIT website. Very recently also actually they were calling for some, not just actually the project, they're also having actually the internships, regular internships for the graduates and postgraduates in the law, right? So like that, there are multiple opportunities available in the UNIDROIT as well. Then even some of the bodies which are working in the western part of the world, like maybe in the United States, I can tell you about American Society of International Law or even American Bar Association. American Bar Association has got different projects, right? And it is not confined only to the US nationals. They're also extending it to the Asian countries, especially when we are having some kind of an approach with respect to the Asian developments. They are funding even those projects. European Society of International Law as well as European Research Council. European Research Council is another major body which one can look into for the purpose of getting some kind of a sponsorship. There is something called as Open Societies Foundation, Open Society Foundation, which has a branch even in India. Anyone can actually search therein. So there are a lot of opportunities available even in the Open Society foundations. Then apart from that, Max Planck Institute has its own fellowship, Indo-Hungarian fellowship, Asia-New Zealand Foundation is there. DART research grants are there. Germany has got the DART. Similarly, Erasmus Mundus, as already Professor Shanthakumar has pointed out, there are multiple research grants which are available with these all international agencies or the bodies. And human rights and environment, I think Professor Sairam Bhat is a better person to explain, so I will leave it to him. There are multiple bodies who sponsor actually in the field of human rights and environment as well. Then in terms of public bodies in India, UGC, ICSSR, CSIR is known to all of us actually. So I don't think actually I need to explain to anyone who is part of this particular discourse. So anyone who can Google can get to know about this. Apart from that, different ministries and the departments are also offering different research projects now. This is the development which has taken place almost in the last maybe a decade at the maximum, right? 2015 onwards or so. We can find that multiple departments and the ministries are interested in having law-oriented projects. Like say Department of Justice, they have something called as Action Research Plan. Action Research Plan, huge amount is available every year, 25 lakhs per project they are granting actually for multiple projects. Similarly, Ministry of Labor and Employment has got its own grant in aid. Ministry of External Affairs has got funding for the different organizations. Then Ministry of Commerce, we were actually just very recently discussing, so there is a project which is coming to us. Ministry of Commerce has got actually the multiple project funding in the trade, commerce, and related the aspects. Ministry of Health and Welfare, you can also find that. Ministry of Health and Welfare also has got actually different projects related to the health policies, so one can avail the sponsorships. In terms of departments, Department of Science and Technology, Department of Consumer Affairs, then even Department of Atomic Energy for that matter. So I could able to get actually the sponsorship even from Department of Atomic Energy. So people might have thought what they are going to provide, especially since they are having primarily the science, pure science background actually. But still, that is a possibility. And even ISRO has got something called as Respond. There is actually a sponsorship which is granted with respect to the Respond the projects. So one can explore that. And of late, the InSpace, which has been established for licensing the private space activities, it has also got actually the research grants. InSpace has got the research grant of late. National Commission for Women, of course, most of you should be knowing. Indian Institute of the Corporate Affairs, Indian Institute of Foreign Trade also. Indian Institute of Foreign Trade has actually established different centers in several the law schools as well. Competition Commission of India has got actually the centers and even the projects. At the state level also, there are funding opportunities available because I have already pointed out about the center, CRSGPP, right? Center for Regulatory Studies, Governance and Public Policy. This has been sponsored by the West Bengal government to us, right? So, and it's a huge amount, as I have already mentioned. Judicial Academy do sponsor the projects. They have got grants. Most of the times, these grants remain unutilized. They would not be knowing to whom to grant. That's the reason why it remains unutilized. If you can tap that in your respective state, you would also be able to actually get some good the grant from the Judicial Academy. So these are actually the major public bodies which I would like to point out in terms of getting the grants. And finally, the private bodies, of course, there is a catch in that, because sometimes actually the private bodies are having their own actually the motivation for promoting something, which we may have to be a little bit careful of. But then again, there are certain reliable agencies like, say, Ford Foundation, Tata Memorial Trust, Azim Premji Foundation, right? So all these foundations do have actually the research grants, which can be actually tapped by the researchers. Even NGOs also, there are different NGOs who are also actually sponsoring human rights and environmental NGOs. And even Professor Shanthakumar was telling about actually the online gaming platform. That's, I think, Gamescraft. He was mentioning about Gamescraft, I think. So we have also got actually the sponsorship from Gamescraft for the research, the projects and all, actually. So these are the major grant opportunities which are available for all of us. So only thing is that we should actually tailor our proposal in such a manner that it is suitable for these the agencies. If we have the patience, and also actually if we have the say a kind of the inclination to put hard work, definitely there is actually a lot of opportunities available for grabbing. I think this is what is my initial remarks about your first question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. That's a long list of organizations at 3 levels that you mentioned. So there are few which, which have also sort of helped NLU Tripura benefit. So I can happily tell you, like Department of Panchayat. So we are recently working with Department of Panchayat in 480 Gram Panchayats. So every year, Gram Panchayats have to present a development plan for the next financial year. So that's one of the bigger projects that we recently got. Likewise, for Azim Premji, I and one of my PhD scholars and colleague, so we have together, we are batting for it as of now. And then also Good Governance Department. So we are just almost, the project is done. We are expecting a release of the report on Good Governance Day by the Chief Minister on 25th of December. So that's another project. So yes, there are so many possibilities even within the states, when we look at these state governments and departments. Thank you so much. So I move on to Professor Sairam Bhat. Sir, you may have to add something to that Professor Sandeepa Bhat just mentioned. And apart from that, as I sent you one question, that are there any research grant cycles or timelines that any researcher or a faculty should take note of? Or is it like generally on a rolling basis? So that will help all of us get some kind of an idea when to start and how to keep track of it. Because we all get, of course, busy with the teaching assignments. So probably that will help.
Yeah. I think Professor Shanthakumar and Sandeepa Bhat have already laid the foundation of this webinar. I will just, raise the curiosity of the participants in saying, why should you apply for a grant? Are you all interested? I'm not sure. Or are you attending this seminar just to gain some information or knowledge? Because see, why should I be part of a research grant, or why should I apply? Is a fundamental question. Then you can be definitely looking at the different grants that Sandeep and Professor Shanthakumar have already given you highlight about. The reason why I ask this is because, please note, research broadly as an academician, please note you can divide into 2 categories. One, doing for yourself, which is your PhD research, your LLM research, or any other research that you may go on to write for an article or publication. Here, when you're doing a research for a research grant, you're doing research for someone else, right? Now, how many of us do have experience, expertise in understanding what the grantor requires in the research? I'm not sure. This is something that I think it's very fundamental. Because, let us take what Sandeep just mentioned about Department of Justice. Now, what does Department of Justice require? Right? Luckily, Nachiketa, we have Jay Badruka here, Gayatri, Girish also, and Sanchit Sharma, three of my esteemed colleagues. Actually, to be honest, they know much than what I know. Because, friends, the reason why I tell you all this is because research is a teamwork, right? There may be one leader, but there are people who are actually doing the legwork, right? Now, whether you are thinking of doing the research yourself, do you need a research team? If so, in your research team, who are the expertise? And does you and your research team understand what the funder requires, right? What the funder has a mandate upon. To be honest, in every or any kind of research, please note there are two approaches. One is a bottom-up approach. The bottom-up approach is where you are the applicant. You are seeking research. ICSSR, the faculty is applying and ICSSR is giving it to you. Then you need to have a very strong, proposal. Sometimes it is a top-down approach. Like, for example, Tripura could be a very focused state for the Panchayat Raj Ministry. And, they would then, approach you and say, look, we have this fund, we have this objectives, आप कर लो, ठीक है? तो काफी varieties होते हैं, but issue ये है कि are you keen to do research for someone else? Right? This is something that I find it very fascinating because many of us fall into a trap of being pure academic researchers. See, funders, let's say Department of Justice, may require 50% of academic research. But 50% of the research output that the funder requires is policy-related research. Right? Now, the point that I'm driving you to think about is how many of us are willing to contribute to a policy research output. When someone gives you money, he does not give you money for literature review and footnotes. He does not give you money for academic output. He requires you to produce those kinds of results that will be useful for that agency who is giving you the money. How many of you are willing to contribute to that? Because see, it could be very demanding. Now, I can just debate with Sandeepa because we both have shared many such grants together. Now, Sandeepa, if suppose Sandeepa is giving me money, he will first of all see what is Sairam's previous competency in this particular area. He said environment, right? So first of all, he has to have confidence that Sairam can lead a team to fulfill that kind of a mandate. See, money will come, but are you going to justify that money, right? You have to create a image for yourself, a brand for yourself, where people will trust you with their money. It's as simple as that, right? And secondly, to be honest, you have to be prepared to go to a presentation where you have to justify, signify, significance of your study has to be placed. It's a lot of hard work, let me tell you. There are a lot of kickbacks, to be honest. When I say kickback, don't think it otherwise. Kickback in terms of feedback. Sandeep, suppose if he's giving me money, he will say, Sairam, no, I don't want A, Y, B. Are you humble enough to accept it? Are you going that way? Because, see, academic research grants are easier. But let me tell you, the toughest part is industry related research grants. See, industry related research grants, they don't want your theorization. They don't want academic work. They want specific outputs, right? And the deliverables are to be given to you on a quarterly basis, right? So I think with industry research, proposals, the deliverables are so demanding, demanding on yourself and your team, right? That's why I mentioned Jay, Gayatri, and Sanchit who are here. So is the team capable? Because see what happens, and I'm sure Sandeepa can relate this, that if your researchers who support you are not experienced in delivering to the industry, and if they're very young, first time researchers, they'll not be able to support you, and finally, your research is not going to be relevant. So you need an experienced team. You need a team that can actually deliver industry expectations. And industries, please note, before they accept your final report, they give you feedback. They expect you to, perform. They expect quality, originality, and most importantly, please note, friends, in most research grants, let me be very candid over here. Nachiketa. See, usually, I don't know how to put this across. It is usually 80% research and 20% original. Okay. Is it so? Guys, answer for yourself. But I believe in research grant, I would say 50% research and 50% original. Yeah, that's that's the value for money, right? So first of all, I hope the audience here can appreciate and understand why you need to apply for a research grant. Are you willing to put in that hard work? Are you willing to have that originality? Are you willing to meet expectations? This is corporate style. You have to be there in a corporate setup. It's performance based incentive, right? It's not like a regular presentation. It's demanding, it's challenging, right? And just to conclude here, Nachiketa, I would just say personally and individually to all the audience today, uh, if you are looking for applying research grants, the first question you have to answer is, do I have a mentor in place? How many of you have a mentor? How many of you need a mentor? Because to be honest, if you don't have a mentor, you cannot start your research life, research grant life. You need a ladder, right? You need a ladder of support. You need a ladder who can be a reviewer. You need a ladder who can first make you a joint applicant first. You need to build your abilities. It does not come automatically to anyone, right? That kind of mentorship, reviewership, a joint applicant process, if you're not in touch with your peers, you'll not be able to successfully get into a research grant process. And to be honest, friends, I don't think everyone needs to do research and take grants. Let me be very clear about it. Because apart from your hard work, you need a tinge of luck to be successful in research grants. To be honest, me, Sandeepa, at least we know how many rejections we might have faced. Because let me be very honest to you, friends. Out of 10 research proposals that at least I have submitted, 9 have been rejected. Yeah. Yeah. You need to have the courage of facing rejections. Learn from those rejections, right? Because each grant has a different expectation. Yeah, the European grants come with different expectation, and American grant comes with entirely, totally opposite expectation. Your public grants come with different expectation. Your industry grants come with different expectations. So you have to understand those expectations, and that can only come from your mentor who has experience, who knows this process, who has done multiple research grants. See, it's like understanding your client. See, it's a lawyer. When your client is giving you money, you first understand your client and his problem, isn't it? Similarly is with the research grant. Unless you know what those expectations are. For example, I know half of people who apply for research grants don't know the grantor itself. What is their history? Why are they giving you this money? What is the cycle about? And where should this money be deployed? Right? For what they have to be deployed? So all of these requires a huge amount of experience. They require a huge amount of preparation. And I think it requires a lot of commitment and dedication from your side. And I think finally, your ability to put in that original ideas, creativity, right? That will be the basis of why someone will give you money for research.
Thank you so much, sir. Indeed, all of these thoughts, I'm sure, will be helpful for some of the first-time research applicants or grant applicants to reflect and look out also for mentors, because teamwork is certainly essential. So I come back to Professor Shanthakumar with another round of question. Let's say, do you have any success stories in mind which could inspire our new researchers, or some of them who have been uh, now coming to that space or scaling up, have been trying for last few years, probably failed, or maybe the first time applicants, that could inspire them, that research grant writing experience or success stories of those kinds?
Yeah. Thank you, Nachiketa, for this. Before coming into my experience sharing, I would want to reiterate the opinion expressed by my colleague Sairam, that you need a good team once you have a good team, you are good to go. Number one. If you have a mentor, in fact, Sairam was mentioning about a mentor, which most of us lack. Very, very few are fortunate to have good mentors who can handle and who can lead the research. So you need to have good mentors. That is one thing which was emphasized. The third thing, what Sairam did not mention is that he did not take my name when it comes to facing the failures. Yeah, even recently, one of my proposal got rejected badly, right? And some of my junior colleagues got the project, right? It happens. It happens because then when I did an introspection and when I compared it with why my project got rejected and why my another colleague's project got selected for funding, I could see that the reason is novelty. So the topic in which I submitted proposal, of course I looked into the novelty. I suggested it, but probably my title was not able to convince the funding agency, so they could not. They could not appreciate the perspective in which I would wanted to do a research on that particular topic, whereas my other colleagues' proposal, they found it novel, and then they said that okay, there is some intended outcome that might come because the topic is novel. So these are some of the experiences that you will gain. So you first of all do not expect that you should get the funding immediately. You should be prepared to face failures.
Sir,
Sometimes,
just sir,
yes.
just inspiring to get your touch of humility, sir. I hope it can be infectious and we all adopt it, sir. To be honest, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. No, it's a failure is a part of everyone's life. That is what I would want to say. And what is important, as Professor Sairam said, is mentorship. So if you have a good mentor, I think you will get it. I have seen it. Many projects. Uh, some colleagues came and said that, sir, I would want you to join me in submitting this research proposal. When I looked at it, I said, I don't have any knowledge in this particular area, any topic in this area. But why do you want me to be there? Why don't you find somebody else who can actively contribute? Then they say that, no, sir, your name will add value. Your designation might add value. So these are some of the things that what they would want to gamble upon. And interestingly, it worked. I just lent my name, and then I only reviewed their proposal, and I made some fine tuning with respect to the format, template, and budgeting and all those things. Actually, without not going into the subject, but then it clicked. So mentorship is very, very important, and you need to find out a mentor uh, uh, with whom you need to associate, because research is almost like handholding. Handholding, especially by people who know the knack of doing it. Like I have a colleague who is vice chancellor of a nearby university, like opposite GNLU, we have a university called Pandit Deen Dayal Petroleum University. Now it's renamed as Pandit Deen Dayal Energy University. So the vice chancellor there is a very good friend of mine. So we keep sharing a lot of the things. So he came. He was a professor with IIT Kanpur, and then he came with a lot of experience in. He himself has some 25 patents in his name. So when he came, he looked at the institutional profile, and he found his colleagues were not doing actually great in filing patents. So annually they used to have some 40 patent applications filed. But then when he joined, and within a year, the next year that 40 became 140. So almost 140, 150 applications they filed for patenting from same institution, same faculty members. Then I asked him, like, how is this possible? How is that within a year you could increase it 3 times and you raised it by more than 100 patent applications this year? He said simply, no, they are all good colleagues. They are all wonderful people. They have all the knowledge, but they did not know how do they file patents. So simply, I was just helping them that how do they need to do this. So he just said that I groomed them on preparing and filing a patent application of all the ideas that whatever they have. And they did some mock filing and all those things. And then he said, out of that, filtering it. Now, see, that is what is the role of a mentor, especially in a research grant proposal. So a small fine tuning will really help people in getting the grant successfully offered. So like many times, we try and always suggest some very, very novel topics like like me and a colleague who is from a social work department. Both of us, we filed a project proposal, a research proposal to the Mahatma Gandhi National Council for Rural Education, MGNCRE, which is a Government of India institution. And then we said that what role higher educational institutions play in promoting social entrepreneurship among students. Of course, every institution is working on entrepreneurship area. So even law schools have started having legal incubation centers. So we thought that we need to have social entrepreneurship. How many educational institutions are actually promoting social entrepreneurship? See, social entrepreneurship, I do not know how many of you are aware of this concept called social entrepreneurship. So this is something, a business model which will not only create profits for your organization and you, but also you do something to the society. Like, if you go to any airport, you will see that the housekeeping staff, the people, who are involved in housekeeping, they come from a company called BVG. Most of the airports have them. Like, so I studied the that particular company, which is this company, who is behind this company. I could see a very interesting guy, a software engineer, who once, when he was working for a software company, felt that the housekeeping people in his organization are not treated well. They are not given a proper uniform. They are not given adequate protective gears, and then they are not respected well. They are not paid well. So this bothered him as a software engineer, because when he finds somebody around him sweeping the floor, washing the toilets, and doing this and that, so then he thought that why should I not create a firm to support these kind of people? So he collected all these people who were unorganized and established a company called BVG, and then he started offering these services to small institutions, and then now he employs more people than Government of India can have on its roll. So these are some successful models. When I looked into that model, and I said, this is something which we need to tell our students, like how they can not only earn profit from their entrepreneurship model, but at the same time create some social impact. So we submitted a proposal based on this model immediately. Just within 3 days, we got an acceptance for this, because it has impressed the funding agency. So this is something which will help all educational institutions to set up a model how they need to promote social entrepreneurship, especially in educational institutions, because we need to inspire kids not only to work for them, but to work for the society. How you can contribute when you yourself are making money, making profits, how at the same time you can contribute to the society by taking everybody along, especially the less privileged and the underprivileged, the vulnerable. So this is something which So I sitting at the airport, looking at this housekeeping staff, and looked at their logo, and immediately I googled for what is this BVG company, who is behind it. I could reach out who was the founder, or looked into his history. Then I, in fact, sought an opportunity to meet him, to understand him, his views and his experiences. It's all amazing. So when you put your heart and soul into writing a proposal, especially on something which is not very common, which is non-obvious, then obviously funding agencies will feel really happy. Similar experience, like I can share when especially during COVID time, all the construction laborers all got stranded, and there was no work going on. The employers were not paying them wages, and they don't have a bank balance to sit and eat on their savings. And especially, uh, I could see that the poor people, especially the kids there, the children of at least the adult could face these odds. They have the energy to face all these odds, but then I could see children suffering from hunger, which impacted their nutrition levels very badly. Because today we are all very fortunate that we think about our protein levels and our fiber levels and our carb levels, and then we talk about fitness and other things. For them, just look at it. They want to satisfy their hunger. Forget about all these things, protein, fat, and other things. So what will have to the nutrition, what will have to the right to health of these poor people, the urban poor, especially who have migrated, who do not have a ration card, who do not have a bank balance, who do not have any social security measures. So how do they sustain? So while going in the car on a road, seeing these people, it really created a thought process. And how will these people manage, and what kind of citizen this country will have after 10-15 years if these children grow up as adults with no nutrition and no education and no health, and what kind of burden that these people will create on the government and the nation. So all these different thought process actually helped us make a proposal. I have a colleague who is very, very fantastic in writing proposals. When we discussed this idea, she made a proposal, and we sent it to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for doing a research, and we immediately got an approval for this project. Likewise, I can keep on talking about it, but because it's a panel, and then we have to. So, similarly, when Professor Sandeepa Bhat's institution, the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, they regularly every year encourage law teachers to apply for funding. I think this is the only NLU which is doing it, which very liberally funds research proposals outside their institution. So we just again applied for a study on the status and functioning of childcare institutions established under the Juvenile Justice Act, which was successfully funded. Similarly,
NLU Delhi is also
offering it.
NLU
Oh,
Delhi.
excellent, great. So I should tell my colleagues this information. We have not returned to NLU Delhi for funds till now. That's a good input. I think I should ask my research team to get into it. Similarly, NCW, the National Commission of Women, they keep requesting, they keep publishing call for proposals. So we submitted a project to NCW to conduct a safety audit of women. And in fact, we submitted proposal for at least for 4 cities. They rejected 2, and then they gave 2 cities to us. One for Jodhpur. We got one project for Jodhpur, which was 23.5 lakhs. Similarly, we got a project to do this study in Aurangabad city in Maharashtra with the 22.5 lakhs. Similarly, we did a project on to identify the status of the functioning and effectiveness of Swadhar Grahas and Ujwala homes for women and adolescent girls, which was funded again very generously by the National Human Rights Commission. Similarly, we keep reaching out to the government departments to support a lot of things. So we went to the government department, spoke to the Legislative Affairs Secretary, and we said that so we need to review all the laws made prior to the formation of the state of Gujarat and what kind of laws it's still happening. So why not we convert all those cases? We gave a proposal to the Legislative Affairs Department of the Government of Gujarat. They readily agreed to it, and they also gave a very liberal funding of 25 lakhs for submitting a proposal of repeal of legislations of Government of Gujarat which was made before the establishment of the state of Gujarat. So likewise, we keep doing a lot of things. Like recently also we got a fund on assessment of integration of information technology and artificial intelligence in teaching, research, and evaluation in national universities. And we submitted this proposal to NUJS, and again, we got it successful. We got a very nice thing. And one major, we participated in a tender published by the Government of India, especially the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. They wanted a multi-jurisdictional study on drug pricing policies. We participated in an open tender, competing with a lot of institutions, but fortunately, we were successful in getting that huge project, which was a multi-jurisdictional study on drug pricing policies with the focus on affordable access to medicine. So this was actually funded by the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority under the Department of Pharmaceuticals, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. I know that I'm not taking the examples of projects funded by Ministry of Justice because both the Professor Sandeepa Bhat and Professor Sairam Bhat was talking about it. So I could see that a lot of call for proposals. So today, as I was mentioning, there was a proposal. I visited the website of this Benz Foundation. They are very liberally supporting. So likewise, you keep on sharing a lot of experiences. I think for want of time, I'm stopping with this. We will be happy to answer your questions if there are any specific questions on this. Thank you. Over to you, Nachiket.
Thank you so much, sir, and very kind of you to, as Professor Sairam Bhat was saying, that first of all, I would say thank you for trusting the platform and all of us, and you generously mentioned that there were proposals that probably didn't see the light of the day when you submitted. So it's in a way, I think it will break a myth for a lot of the early career applicants also, that even if vice chancellor, senior, with seniority, professors, experience, so projects have got nothing to do with only our days older in the profession, but sometimes there's so many other factors that may affect. And you mentioned that somebody as your junior colleague could get it, but you couldn't, right? And Professor Sairam Bhat also mentioned that out of so many projects, it's so difficult when you see a final output of barely one or two succeeding. So thank you so much. That takes me to a very interesting question to Professor Sandeepa Bhat. Organically, I think it's happening. So the question that I have, sir, that when Professor Shanthakumar and Professor Sairam Bhat mentioned about these failures, which any researcher may actually face, what are those kind of pitfalls or bottlenecks you would like to share? That why does it happen? Are there any very visible kind of reasons for it? Apart from that, yes, of course, at our own end, once we come back to a proposal, revisit and think what went wrong. So if we see what went wrong, could there be some indicators that can help us plug the gap?
Yeah. Thank you, Nachiketa. I should first of all say hats off to both Professor Shanthakumar and Sairam for that humility, for accepting actually the rejections. Actually, I'm slightly bad with that, to be very precise. Maybe it has to do with my experience of actually an application which I made for a postdoctoral studies, actually, more than a decade back. Right, so I prepared an application because actually the university wanted something on emerging areas of space law, since I was very passionate about it, and also it is a leading university in space law. and head of the department also happened to be from someone from India, right? So I wrote on actually the Indian national space legislation. It is more than a decade back. At that time, no major development was taking place. I was part of actually the internal discourse, so I knew about internal the things. So I wanted to develop on that and come up with a blueprint with respect to the Indian national space legislation. I had put in a lot of efforts with respect to preparation of that proposal. But of course, it got rejected. Yeah, maybe that heart and soul input was something which hurted me more. And next year, I wrote a proposal for the same university on equity in space. It was on principle of equity, how exactly it would be operating in terms of different principles in the space. And it got selected. It got selected. But I mean, to my understanding, the work which I have done for the second proposal has been not even 1/20th of what I have worked for the previous proposal. Right. So therefore, I can't say what went wrong for that. Actually, maybe that despite the fact that they did not specifically mention these are the areas wherein they are interested in, maybe they had a preference for something as against the other one. That might be a reason. And that's why I mean, of course, I didn't take it up subsequently, and at the same point in time, I was also really selective in terms of making applications for the different research grants. But I don't advise that that's the right thing. Right approach is to go for more and more actually applications and try to get as many as possible. But I mean, unlike Sairam has pointed out of 10, 9 gets rejected. I have applied only for 11 grants till today. And thankfully, 8 got selected out of it. Of course, what helped me a lot in terms of getting that selection is is understanding the need of the agency. And most of the circumstances, I had an informal discussion with actually some people therein to understand what they are looking for. Right, that helped me a lot in terms of actually fine tuning my research, the proposal. That's number one. Number two, I have tried to not go beyond my domain. Especially, say, I have some 3-4 areas wherein I the work. So, and also depending on my actually the publications and then whatever the CV which I have built, I have tried to confine my proposals to these domains. I think probably that helps a lot in terms of actually having higher percentage of the selection by the scrutiny, the committee. Otherwise, I mean, as all of us know, it's really very competitive world. Any research grant, whatever is available, you will get actually hundreds of applications. Even, I mean, I had been part of actually vetting different the proposals. There are actually sometimes wherein the proposals are equally good, but at the same point in time, the agencies would be having something which is more focused when compared to their actually other areas. So therefore, understanding the nerve of the agency and what is the need of the agency is something actually very crucial to my understanding. And another thing is that there is also a chance, as I told actually, say my first proposal was actually at least 20 times better than actually my second proposal. And I don't know what went wrong in terms of actually selection of the second one instead of the first one. So that's why there is also a matter of luck. So that's the X factor. But apart from that, I should say that it's better to avoid the pitfall of actually going through a particular domain, which is not actually the something which is in the priority list of the funding agencies. That's what I should point out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll add on to the list of
Nachiket?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
No, I was just thinking that we will open up right now. That would be better because, let the participants ask if there are any specific questions, because then we can cater. Otherwise, between me, Professor Shanta and Sandeep, I think we get at least 60 years of experience collectively.
Perfect. Yeah.
So 60 minutes are not going to be sufficient anyways in giving our experiences of the same.
Perfect. That's why I tried to cut short so that actually you can speak for another couple of minutes. Okay.
So before that, I'll add on to a list of my failures as well. So in 2022, I submitted around 6 to 8 proposals, including postdoc. None got selected. So much so, to break a myth, if some of my colleagues ask, I'm younger to all 3 of you, but a little older to few of them who are participants here today, that all of them got rejected. And interestingly, also, I was helping one of my colleagues and friends, for whom I also wrote a recommendation for Fulbright. At the same time, I submitted my own, and my recommendation was written by a professor even from outside who has been a Fulbrighter, almost 2 to 3 times to India, and good other recommendations. I could not succeed. Another colleague for whom I wrote a recommendation and I helped him edit, he could succeed. Right. So sometimes you don't know, what role, could there be, what kind of factor will it determine. So these things, do happen sometimes. So I agree with that. And one major takeaway for me personally is about the domain, subject matter expertise, which Professor Sandeepa Bhat mentioned. That of course, if we probably play safe, if I can put it like that, in our own domain, then our application may probably reflect that. Yes. With those thoughts, I would request participants, you can unmute yourself if you have any questions. I have on behalf of you few questions that some of my friends, some of my students mentioned that I've noted them down as well. Yes, open to anybody who may want to probably ask. If you want to type, you can type. If you want to unmute, you can unmute. I have one question in the meantime. Uh, for example, when Professor Shanthakumar was mentioning about the project which you got, sir, in Aurangabad and Jodhpur, how much is it relevant that if I'm an applicant, for example, located in the next city, uh, how can I make my proposal for another jurisdiction or multi jurisdictions? So, on what basis will I be able to justify? Because there's often this kind of bottleneck, or I would say rather a mental block that we have कि हमारा शायद सिलेक्शन ही नहीं होगा बिकॉज कोई पूछेगा हम तो यहाँ बैठे हैं हम दूसरी सिटी का दूसरे स्टेट का प्रोजेक्ट कैसे कर पाएंगे हमें तो लैंग्वेज भी नहीं आती होगी so how to manage that kind of an issue?
Nachiketa, I think, with respect to this specific project that what you asked, see, we went by the NCRB data. So, the NCRB, we looked at the Crime Records Bureau's data. So, we found that some cities topping the list of crimes against women. So, then we took the statistics from NCRB. And then we started writing a proposal that we would want to find out why is that these cities are on the top of the list when it's not the case in the other cities. So what is lacking there? So we thought that that is the research gap that we would want to find out. And then we could convince the NCW that these are some of the cities, we want to really know why it's happening. So then the NCW was convinced and they gave the proposal.
Okay, right. So that's what I wanted to know. That's quite a possibility, right? There's no bar that if I cannot apply for another jurisdiction, provided probably as you mentioned in a project like that, there's enough data to showcase that it requires an intervention, and I have an expertise to intervene. Right. All right. Anyone who may want to ask any question?
Similarly, we did one research project in the state of Assam.
Oh, okay.
Especially the Ujjwala and this, what is it? Oh, I'm so bad in Hindi. Swachhgar, under the Juvenile Justice Act.
Right.
So we found from our research that Assam doesn't have one. Okay. So then we wanted to actually find out, and then we reached out to NHRC. NHRC also was keen to know why it's not there.
Right.
So they supported the research.
Okay.
So that's what if you have a very, very unique proposition, so it's very easy to convince.
Right. Right. Yes, colleagues, friends, anybody? If you want to type or
meanwhile, if I may have to add in terms of actually what Professor Shanthakumar has said, I mean, we have a very new experience now in terms of mapping 5 states' laws with respect to trade in services. It's now being granted to NUJS, especially in terms of the cross-border trade, right? So so we are actually looking into Meghalaya, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, West Bengal, and the fifth one is I think Tripura, if I'm not mistaken. The 5 of the states actually we are looking into. And what we have done for the purpose of our convenience is to have 5 different researchers from those 5 different states itself, so that actually language barrier can be actually overcome by them. That's what we have tried to do.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Because, sir, I was recently attending one program, short program that was organized by Azim Premji Foundation, and they brought in few other NLUs as well. Their previous what you say researchers whom they funded. So I could see that even in those projects from another state, people could get the funding, and probably they what they mentioned was like you as Sandeepa Bhat mentioned that they try to recruit team locally so that the language barrier can be overcome, and also there's this kind of cultural aspect sometimes in the projects, so even that can be tackled. So
that is what I could see a question by Amrita Jha in the chat box. She's
right.
telling what are the most common mistakes that reviewers see in grant proposals. So
Yes.
these are some of the things like what you said. Having local people, you should tell in your research proposal. If I send a proposal to the government of Assam, say or NHRC that I will do some project in Assam, they'll think that what this guy in Gujarat is going to do in Assam. So you will have to establish your linkages to that place. You should they say that like how did we convince this? We said that GNLU has been having a special reservation for people from the Northeast. So we have a huge population of Northeastern students with us. This will help the Northeastern students to have a field research experience by doing this research, and they will also know the local language. They will be able to connect with their families and with local communities. So those kind of things, you should anticipate that what the funding agency will ask. Otherwise, you go there and then they ask and they say, what these fellows will do there. So that kind of a question will be there. So you need to be very, very cautious when preparing the proposal, thinking it, you like when we prepare for a moot in law schools, we ask students to prepare on both the sides.
Right.
Generally, for the petitioner and the respondent. Likewise, while you are preparing your proposal for the from the petitioner side, you should also ask what will be the respondent's reaction to your proposal. So where they will ask you for more information, what information they will ask, what questions they might ask. So we'll starting from novelty to non-obviousness, we take care of all these things. So that
Right.
that really makes your proposal very, very successful.
Yeah, that's I think a very interesting proposition. So you mentioned that probably be own devil's advocate of your proposal. So you need to get onto the other side that why should somebody fund you, right? And I think that reminds of a of a of a small question that I wanted to ask Professor Sairam, but earlier actually, that since we do not have that availability of a lot of reviewers, that everyone is so much overpacked with work, even at the senior leadership level or even at the professor's level. So where's the time to review somebody's work and detailed work? Because all of this is pretty much detailed work, right? So, and how to actually overcome that kind of a barrier?
No, I think, see, one thing we have to appreciate and understand and accept is that, our writing skills and abilities in India are not so great.
Not
This is something that we have to work on. See, let's not fool ourselves saying, okay, I can write well, because to be honest, we can express orally very well, but when it comes to writing, there are so many mistakes that happen. See, language reviewing is one interesting factor that you have to look into. The consistency of the language that you use, because what happens in a research grant proposal, especially, I'm sure all of us can relate to, we'll put a team in place, right? So one will work on, say, significance of the proposal. One will say, go and do the literature review. One will do the background. That's how my team at least works. So then, there is no synchronization of how the writing is. So that could be the first fundamental mistake that you make, right? So second is, I think, when we put across, reviewers to comment upon. See, I will be very honest, Nachiket. I will not review someone who just sends me and says, "Sir, please review and give it." Right? You have to network. You have to build it. Right? You need to know the people firsthand before they can review for you. So, see, earlier, Professor Shanthakumar was talking about the World Bank project, which is, because we met in that project, we have continued our relationship in that project. 24 years down the lane, we are still good friends. If I today request Professor Shanta, he will come down probably without any expectations of reimbursement cost. That is networking. Where is that now present in academia? Unfortunately, it's losing. I'm not being overcritical, but you need to keep your networks. You need to be reaching out to your people who are seniors. That's very important.
Right.
If we lose that kind of culture of a teacher student mentorship, I don't think reviewers are going to give you the actual review.
Right.
They will give you a very general feedback,
Right.
not give you a feedback that will actually make the grant very successful. It's
Yeah.
as simple as that, right? So,
Right.
and two things that you have to note that a lot of us defend our thesis, right? Don't take me otherwise, guys. We do the same mistake during presentations. We are still in the defense of thesis mode.
Right.
डिफेंस कर लो भाई, but expectations भी match कर लो. ठीक है. क्या होता है when I've given some feedback to a lot of people, especially even journal articles feedback, people take it adversely. Nowadays, people are not willing to take a review, not willing to do changes. They're taking it too personally. Who is he to comment? What experience does he have? How much? See, if you are humble, if you are adaptable, if you think there is always another perspective, and that perspective will only nurture and make you better, you will take the reviewers' feedback uh, in a positive framework, and you will probably undertake these changes, which will only help and benefit all of us. See, as a teacher, humility is the first step, and look at what Professor Shanthakumar has just displayed today.
No, no.
Being in that top position, right, and position of power, authority, and mentorship, he continues to hold that kind of humility. It's an inspiration. I think we must all draw from. I think that's where we must all lead ourselves into that. And to be honest, look, he has taken pride in his younger colleague winning the. How many leaders can do the same? How many of us can share, that kind of, pole positions with our colleagues? I think that's where the teamwork goes. That is where, research grants become successful, because research grant is not like Professor Shanthakumar gave one very classic example. Someone approaches him with name, of course, position, and expectation. So the point is, okay, you have Professor Shanthakumar as your joint applicant, but Professor Shanthakumar will, if he shares, the stage with you, only then your research is going to be successful, isn't it? So choosing the right people as the right mentor, who can accommodate and give you also the space to work, is very, very critical, right? So, I've been lucky to have Professor Ramesh as my mentor. These are classic leaders, Professor Shantakumar and Professor Ramesh. Please note, they have no hesitation in handing over the baton to the next generation. How many of us can have that, courage, the ability, the security of knowledge and work, that we can give it to the next generation to say, "Bacha, abhi tum aage nikal jao, tum le lo." इसको आगे, है ना? Because मेरा हो गया, मेरा generation हो गया, I'll be more the guide, but you have to lead, right? This is the spirit that is required, and I think that is what will take research in academia forward, and I think that is the spirit that we need to nurture and also spread across to the next generation. Sorry, I'm being a little bit emotional on this,
Thank
but
you.
I think it's very necessary that younger people understand what is required.
Right. This
Sairam, you made me blush.
this reminds me,
You have
sir.
been so generous, But I think let's take up the questions. I think we have on the chat box
Yeah.
Revit Rani Roy.
Yeah. Even
He
sir,
is asking like how to form a research team.
right.
In fact, one thing which is very, very uncommon in the law domain is that law teachers are shy of, co-authoring or working in a larger team. They think, poorly when, they start criticizing also. ये क्या है, 3-4 लोग करके क्या करें? Like, so I give them examples of, I gave them in one such occasion. Example of research published in PubMed, which is the most premier medical journal with very, very high impact factor. One article authored by 1007 authors. 1007 authors. right? And the article is just 28-page article, right? Minus this authors list that was running into some 60-70 pages. But the paper was it's quite interesting. You can just Google, all of you have access to Google. Just Google for the maximum number of authors in a research article or something like that. You'll get to that article. It was generally the medical fraternity do that. If they are testing a medicine or if they are testing a treatment process for a particular disease, then they network with their peers across the globe. And even within India, across the cities, across hospitals. So you have 1,000+ doctors sharing their experience on treating a particular kind of a disease. And then they come out with one paper, right? Which gives immense knowledge to people, and then it validates your research. No? We don't need to write a limitation that this research was done only in this area. We do not know whether the same finding will be relevant in other area. When they do some research like that, they think globe as their universe, and then do something to contribute to the entire humanity across the globe. That is how research progresses. So this is something which we need to learn, and creating a team, especially nowadays multidisciplinarity is something very, very important for anything. For example, I don't know, I see most of the PhD research proposal comes on AI now. Everybody wants to do research on artificial intelligence. No, and when I was just sitting in an interview last week for a PhD admission process in the selection committee of another university. They said, the regulation of AI and all these things. I asked them, first explain me, what is this AI and why you want to regulate it? They were not able to tell me what exactly is AI is. They thought that this is some computer software, right? So that is where you require a lot of understanding, and you need to collaborate with the people who have domain expertise. So always try and identify people with similar objectives, with similar interest, and then create a network, and then definitely you will be successful. Your team will definitely, and that is now going to be the trend. You write alone, many foreign journals will not take it for a publication. They think that what this guy is telling, maybe it's his personal opinion. Only when they see at least 3-4 names in the authors list, they think that at least some amount of deliberation, brainstorming must have gone, at least with these 4 guys before sending this paper, and then they value it. So therefore, a team is very, very important. So you need to identify people with same vibes, same passion, same interest areas, and people who are honest to each other. That is also something very important, because in a team you can't have people with cutthroat motives and all those things.
Right. So there's one question from Sheetal that I think I can maybe a little generalize this question. That how can a researcher without principal investigator or mentor, but with a team and affiliation to a university, can successfully apply for a project? So I'll just add one small bit to it. Is it that for all projects we need to mention a principal investigator, or only team would suffice to mention? Anybody may want to answer that question.
Sorry, I missed it. I was reading the chat box.
Okay. So I'm saying that for a project or a research grant proposal, is it mandatory that any applicant should mention who will be a principal investigator, or only mentioning a team as such would be adequate?
But ideally, you need to select the team leader. You should say so and so will be the PI, so and so will be the co-PI. If you are equal, then you can have one of them designated as a co-PI. And then you can also talk about your research team, their expertise, in domain knowledge and in research methodology, and especially their publications. So an intro to all the authors, the potential authors, will give a fantastic impression. It will leave, okay, this is a competent team. Okay, let's now look into the proposal. First is you need to convince that you are a competent person to apply for this project.
Right.
So writing about your team is very, very important. Who are they? What role they will play in this research? What is their background, academic background, experiences? What are their publications? What are their credentials? So this actually impresses the funding agencies, because they are not going to simply give money for nothing. They have some motive in mind. Their even the motive is not need not be bad always, but motive can always be to encourage research on a particular area. So they will be keeping on funding in that area, right? So if you write to them on something else, so that's what I said about that Melinda Gates Foundation fellowship. When we wrote to them, we did a research on what kind of projects they support. So they are very, very aggressively supporting anything on right to health. So then we related hunger with health and all those things. So that is how you convince the funding agencies.
Right.
Maybe I think I can relate this back to the previous question with respect to the common mistakes which is done in actually the proposal. As Professor Shanthakumar has rightly pointed out, at least having a principal investigator and the co-investigator would give you a better chance in terms of actually getting the proposal through. Because otherwise it seems like it is not structured properly. At the end of the day, structuring of the proposal is also very, very significant for impressing any reviewer. And one more thing, if I have to add in terms of a successful proposal, we have to be very clear about the deliverables, what we are going to actually deliver out of the project. What is the output? And it's also dependent on the funding agency. If they are actually more interested in terms of something practically happening in the society, probably we have to show that's going to happen out of our the research project. Or if they are interested in developing a policy framework or maybe a legislative draft or whatever it may be, we may have to show that as actually the output of the project. And the correlationship between actually the research questions, then problem, whatever we are looking into, research questions and objective, that should also be clearly established in the course of the writing of the proposal. And one last thing which I can tell you is about the timeline and the budget. Timeline also should be actually something which is workable. It should not be, say, for example, taking a project for 3 years, 5 years or something like that, actually. Keeping it as short as possible, and also to show in the proposal that much of work is there. Is it 18 months or 1 year, 2 years, whatever it may be, that much of work is there, has to be shown in the proposal. And budget should also be moderate. I'm not saying that actually you put a budget which is not actually workable, but at the same point in time, it should be moderate, and we should not actually say exaggerate it so that the funding agency at the first go itself would have a kind of a rejection mode. It should not happen like that. I think probably if we can take care of all these common concerns in actually drafting the proposal, we would be successful in getting the proposals through. Thank you.
Nachiketa, just one point.
Yeah. Yes.
You said principal investigator, not principal researcher.
Right.
The word investigator means in your proposal, you're not supposed to expect research investigate. Right? Now that word, a lot of people don't understand. What am I supposed to do? Okay, my name is there. I'm the principal investigator. Someone is the co-investigator. But investigator in the Indian Council of Social Science Research means something, right? It means in other disciplines something. It means something. It's not doctrinal. It's not desk. It is investigation, empirical, with evidence, outputs, outcomes. Right? It is evidence-based research. And that's what an investigator is supposed to do. So if you see all that, words, I'm not playing a word game here, but these are very critical factors.
Right. Right. Thank you, sir. One of my PhD scholars is asking from NLU Tripura that how can a new NLU like us, yes, we faced this problem recently that we don't have no 12B and, for example, other kind of certifications. So how will we overcome those challenges? Because there are requirements. So I don't know. I have no specific answers because we are also searching.
No, it's not required all the time. Yeah, it depends on which is the funding agency. Like if you go to government funding agency or UGC associated bodies, they will ask for 2F, 12B and all these things, right? But then mostly, largely, other institutions, especially international institutions, don't care. They don't mind. Write a proposal to WHO, write a proposal to any of these international organizations. They don't insist on this 12B and all this. So likewise, a lot of, like you said, Asim Premji, they every year they invite HMGG Foundation. So they don't care who you are, which institution. If you have a very sound proposal, they accept it. So this is a very, very limited limitation. So very like ICSSR or ICMR, they do this kind of restriction. Others don't do it.
Right. Okay,
there
sir.
are umpteen number of researching.
Yeah. We can take one last question. Raghunath, do you want to unmute? You mentioned that'd be great.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes.
All the dignitaries?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So thank you, sir, for providing me the opportunity. And good evening to all the dignitaries, including Professor Dr. Sairam Bhat, sir, then Shanthakumar, sir, and Sandeep Bhat, sir, and also moderator Dr. Nachiketa Mittal, sir. Actually, I am just, I can say I'm like all of your student. I am just your student and nothing else. I'm just having some experience last July. Me, myself, and my PhD scholar. So I am the principal investigator and he's the co-investigator. We have applied for one particular grant in National Human Rights Commission for this conducting some national conference, and it is found that uh, that the particular things mentioned that they will allow the first of all the institute of eminence, and that is the first criteria. Then again, as I'm from ICFA University Tripura, it's a private university, so there are some questions about 12B. Other than that, the project was a very nice proposal, but ultimately it was not accepted. And when the results came, I found that it is not that the private universities are not getting proposal or their proposals not been granted. That Sister Nivedita University, Newtown, Kolkata, they got that one particular for one seminar. And so, sir, this is not, I'm not having much experience, but these are the things because earlier also once and twice these things happened. So, being a part of private universities, how much I can ensure myself that we are able to get some project proposal from a government body or that government body like NHRC or child welfare body like Women and Child Commission or some particular government body.
Raghunath,
They will.
we got the question. We got the question. I think one of
Yes.
the
Thank you,
speakers
sir.
able to answer. Yeah.
Like, see, I don't think if you have a very good proposal, most of the times I think, like I had been a reviewer with ICSSR, they give us a blind, it's masked. So we don't get to know whether it is a private university or a public university. We don't get to know even your name or department or anything. We are given only the proposal to read. It's a blind review that we do. And second is, I would request you to please to visit VIT University, like another university in Chennai called JPR University. Look at the kind of research proposals and the grant that they got. They're sitting over research proposals with grant in multiples of crores. They are all private university. They have more than even public universities are getting. So when you go with a very beautiful proposal, very, very innovative, novel proposal, definitely funding agencies will not keep all these barriers in mind. No private university, public university discrimination. I don't think that is there because I see in wherever I compete with lot of private universities. And the same thing on budget, though we were shortlisted for a proposal by the Indian Army, we lost, though we were number one in terms of technical qualification, but our budget was a bit excess than what was presented by NLS Bangalore, so the contract was given to NLS Bangalore. So the research grant was given to NLS Bangalore just because budget. So because that is also one thing you need to keep in mind. You need to give the reasonable, fair amount. What is required. If you start putting fancy figures, then it becomes a problem. That is also one of my experience.
Right. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you so much for enlightening me in this regard, and I will definitely remember all these suggestions given by you in future. Thank you. Thanks a lot to you. Thank you.
No problem. Raghunath and others, I just would like to put this across to you. Usually, what we do is, as soon as we have been rejected, naturally, you have to do what? What happens when rejection happens? You feel bad, and what else do we do?
Little bit, but not wholesome. Sometimes, yes, sir.
No. So I would tell you, so the best thing is you should follow up with this agency and get a feedback about why you were not selected. Sometimes some agencies give you, others don't have the time. For example, ICSSR will simply not have the time to give you any feedback. But some agencies do have this option of sending you the reviewer's feedback. Or those reasons why your proposal was not shortlisted or not selected. This is a great learning, to be honest, right? You can, take it. It's confidential. It is only shared with you. It is not going to be made public. But can you learn from it? Absolutely, you can do that. So a lot of these granting agencies share their feedback, and the reviewers, sometimes scores are also given to you. The reasons are also shared. And that was the great learning that can help you take your journey forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, can I please ask a question?
Yeah, quick. Yeah, Ishan.
Okay. Good evening to all esteemed speakers. So this is, my question is premised on mentorships and collaboration. Now, sir, I am working in a private university in Calcutta, and there are a lot of challenges that a private university faces, especially from administration. Now, when we talk about the proposals that we want to make, how open are national law schools to collaborate with individual young scholars like I? And how open are you to mentor us? Because we lack that in institutions like ours, because the administration is changing every second day. And I'm saying this because I have enrolled myself on various forums whenever I would see Sairam sir, Sandeepa sir, and Shanta sir on various occasions. So this is a student speaking to teachers and asking for your suggestions on this.
Ishani, I think probably NUJS itself
Hi,
is
sir.
a good example for you.
Yes. So how open are you to collaborate with me
Absolutely. No, not just that. Even NUJS is offering actually a collaborative research for the private universities. If you go through the list of actually the projects which NUJS has granted, it has also granted to the private universities. So you can also explore that, and probably, and current regime is actually completely open for having collaboration with the private universities.
Right. So because in health law, I was wanting to talk to you about this, because right now I'm working in the field of health laws. And the problem with us is I'm teaching in Amity University, Kolkata now since the last 6 years. The problem is the administration is quite rigid with their methods. So if we have to do some collaboration, it has to be on an individual capacity, because otherwise the AUK, there are issues. So on that level, how open is NUJS or other
NUJS is
national
definitely open, don't worry about that. But at the same point in time, you can also try exploring from your university also to have a joint research project. I don't think Amity administration would say a no for getting a research fund from NUJS.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't, but the problem is that the administration is missing half the time. That is the problem.
I know currently actually there is a lot of crisis there, and I know about it. But whatever, I mean, there is a possibility of actually individual level collaboration also. And more importantly, institutional level, definitely, because there are multiple joint research projects which are going on from the NUJS with the private universities.
Okay, so I shall get back to you.
Same thing, Ishani, even at GNLU, so especially, for the last few years, I have been trying and encouraging early career researchers, mostly from the private law schools. I know that those institutions will not have enough funding to give them any seed money to support things. So we fund. So we invite proposals from, especially from private institutions in the state of Gujarat, and we did it, and we have actually given to a lot of them.
Okay.
And to our surprise, they have performed exceptionally well. So there is no such inhibition that I'm from a private university and this. When you have a good proposal, that will really help us. Number one. Number two, as you said, institutional level, there will be a lot of bureaucracy involved and all those things. I think as a researcher, you should not worry about the institution. You should go ahead, collaborate with individuals from different team, and ultimately, once you are successful, institution will be very proud in putting your success story on their website and Instagram pages and social media handles. So don't worry about it. But you should take the first step.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Ishani, since you are a PhD scholar with us in NLU Tripura, you could always come back to us as well, right? And
Yes, sir.
Center for Public Health, which is headed by your own guide,
Yes. That's my home space, sir.
Yeah, so Professor,
That's my home space.
yeah, he's heading that, so you can always,
Yes, sir.
So I think lucky day for you. 3 NLUs offering you to collaborate from NETS to Gandhinagar to Tripura, right? So that's a good start, right? So thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I must really thank Professor Shanthakumar, Professor Sairam Bhat, and Professor Sandeepa Bhat. One call that I made to each one of you, you all agreed, and I'm sure this would have been a very good learning exercise for everyone who joined, because this is a area which probably is a little less talked about on an open forum, but we all face these kind of challenges. So thank you for your inputs. Before we just close for the night, quite a dinner time for everyone. If some of you may want, you can switch on your cameras. I always like to capture the online photo, as we can say. That sums up better.
Before closing, there is one last question from Revati Rani. She's asking, whether there are any limitations, restrictions on JRF fellows for applying for grant projects. In fact, only restriction will be that the JRF fellow should not take a honorarium. Yeah, so you should not have, the fee for the ACPI or something like that. And most of the institutions, you can always apply for a research proposal, get grant, and use it completely for the project, for the research.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, quick few seconds. If you want to switch on your cameras, then we can capture and then good to go. Calling it a day. Wonderful. Good to see all of you.
Would you say smile, Nachiketa?
Yes, smile. Good to see you, Jay. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for collaborating, I really thank you and GNLU also for that. Thank you, Sairam, sir.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.